Upon spotting me, Madison burst into tears, her eyes swollen and red, and blurted out, "Please, help me." Apparently, her mother, the general manager, just informed her that the hotel will be closing in 3 months, instead of the scheduled 6 months. To be honest, I had no particular feelings towards the hotel or Madison herself. After all, it had been over 10 years since we last met. But for some reason, I just couldn't bring myself to leave things as they were. Madison is in trouble, so I should lend a hand. Doesn't that sound like a good enough reason? With those words, the second chapter of my life began. My name is Bill. I'm a 26-year-old regular employee at a travel agency. Having worked here since graduating from college, I'm now in my 3rd year. With a junior under my wing, I'm living a hectic life as a mentor. At one point, I found myself at odds with my boss, the department head Tyler, and became his target. Tyler, notorious for his arrogance, was someone no one dared to oppose. Initially, I too was afraid to speak up against Tyler, but one day I witnessed him being excessively harsh on my junior, Tom. "You're hopeless. This isn't school anymore. If you're getting paid, you're expected to work accordingly. This is common sense. People like you should just quit already." We were not in sales but in the planning department. Our main job is to design tours by combining tourist spots with transportation and accommodations. Conducting market research to understand where travelers want to go and what kind of options they would appreciate is part of our work in developing plans. Tyler had torn up Tom's proposal right in front of him and hurled insults at him. I was particularly fond of my junior colleague and knew that he had been working hard all night. He came to me saying, "What do you think about this? I've been really struggling, but I feel like it might work." That's why, unable to tolerate Tyler's behavior any longer, I lost my patience. Before I knew it, the argument escalated, and it got to the point where Alex, a manager from another department, had to intervene. I was put on probation. Though I didn't agree with it, the thought of getting into another argument with Tyler if I saw him made me accept the probation as it was. After a while, Tom informed me that there were talks of transferring me to another department. This is just wrong. After all, they put you on probation without even listening to your side, and now a transfer, it's practically a demotion. This is too much. How is it that Tyler can continue to be a manager, but you're being punished? I placed my hand on Tom's trembling shoulder. "Thank you for being so angry on my behalf, but it's okay. If everything can be settled by my transfer, I'll accept it. Protecting juniors is also part of being a senior, right?" Saying this made him cry tears of frustration. And I did everything I could to stop him from going to talk directly to the higher-ups. Doing so would only reignite Tyler's anger that had just been conned. If Tom earned Tyler's grudge, he might lose his place here for good. Tom is far more capable than I am. I believe that one day, he will definitely show his worth and prove Tyler wrong. Believing this, I felt okay to take all the responsibility and resolve the situation if it came down to it. So, I informed President Wilson of my intention to resign. Of course, I was told it was too soon to make such a decision. Although the investigation into the matter wasn't finished yet, and it was just a temporary transfer with the possibility of returning, my decision was firm. I appreciate all your help. If there's a chance, I hope we can meet again somewhere. Even though I resigned voluntarily, it seems that because I disappeared right after my probation, people might think I was essentially fired. Well, fired or not, as long as I could get away from Tyler, anything was fine by me. Since I was living with my parents and didn't have a girlfriend, I had saved up quite a bit of money. Originally, I planned to move out once I had saved a certain amount, and this seemed like a good opportunity, so I decided to start living on my own. I should probably look for a new job right away, but I just don't feel up to it right now. So, before moving out, I thought about going on a trip. Since I work in this field, I know where various shops and hotels are located. After some research, I found that a traditional hotel located at the border of the state was having a bargain campaign, so I decided to visit. I called right away and they said they were available even tomorrow, so I made a reservation and started preparing for my trip. Leaving for a trip the day after resigning might seem odd to some, but I didn't mind at all. I just wanted to soak in a hot spring and heal the fatigue of these days. I decided to travel using only public transportation. Although I liked driving, I thought that moving by foot and feeling the ground beneath me was also an essential part of traveling. Then, around 5 in the evening, I arrived safely at the hotel I had booked. At the same time, I was so surprised that I couldn't find my voice. I had never seen such a place before. The parking lot was nearly empty, with only a few compact cars, likely belonging to the employees, parked at the back. As I expected from empty parking lot, no one was at the entrance, and the quiet background music added a sense of desolation. As I looked around and headed to the reception, there was a single petite woman standing there. Wondering if I had made a bad choice, I told her about my reservation. She looked back and forth between my face and her list a few times before asking, "Are you Bill?" "Yes." At first, I didn't recognize her. My voice must have sounded quite odd, but after she introduced herself, memories from the past began to come back. Her name was Madison. She was a former classmate from middle school, and by chance, we were in the same class for 3 years. I barely had any memories with her. As far as I remember, her parents got divorced in the latter half of our first year in middle school, and she went on to a high school in the area where her grandparents lived, so I had no idea what happened after that. I mostly hung out with the boys from the baseball club and only talked to the girls who were in the same committee as me. On the contrary, Madison spent her breaks alone, drawing illustrations or reading, and though we were in the same class, we never really had a conversation. Even after graduation, Madison never showed up at reunions. So, although I had no idea what she had been up to, it was a surprise to run into her here. She said she was now managing this hotel, but it made me wonder, would a manager handle the reception alone? Isn't it a job for the other staff? The manager would do things like guiding guests to their rooms. When I said this, Madison gave a weak smile. "Hey, you hit a sore spot." Then she began to talk about the current state of the hotel. Nowadays, luxury hotels are more popular than these old-fashioned ones, and they are taking away their customers. Wait, I don't think that's the case. I used to work at a travel agency, so I know. There are definitely people who prefer traditional hotels. Even tourists from other countries choose places like this to experience the good old days of America. Maybe you are talking about famous traditional hotels in places like New York. Realizing my comment might have been inconsiderate, I fell silent. However, she just laughed and shook her head. "It's okay. It's the truth. This hotel is about to go under." Her laugh was so beautiful, yet tinged with sadness, that I couldn't help but feel a complex mix of emotions as I checked in. "What brings you here today? It's quite rural, and you don't seem to be here for work, considering your casual attire and luggage." Madison started a light conversation, but I couldn't very well say I was fired. So I decided to dodge the question. "Well, just looking for a change of pace. Being in the city, surrounded by people all the time, can get overwhelming, so I thought I'd relax in a place like this for a change." "I see." Perhaps sensing something, Madison stopped bringing up new topics thereafter. After walking down the long corridor for a while, I arrived at the room I was supposed to stay in tonight. The night view of the rural town visible from the window was breathtakingly beautiful, yet for some reason, it left me feeling somewhat unsatisfied. Something seems missing. I wonder what it is. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but the view was undeniably beautiful. After some time, I went to have an evening meal at the hotel restaurant. This is one of the Chef Brandon's specialties. The fried shrimp is especially recommended, so please feel free to ask for more if you like it. According to what I've heard, they make ample use of fresh seafood caught in nearby waters, and this fried jumbo shrimp has been a highly popular menu item since the hotel's establishment. The flavor was indescribable, filling my mouth with pure delight. As I savored the bounty of the sea while gazing outside, I couldn't help but wonder why such a place, with its stunning views, delicious food, and famed hot springs, was fading into obscurity. My questions only multiplied, but I knew pondering them wouldn't change anything. So, I decided to focus all my attention on enjoying the meal before me. After finishing my meal, I headed to the large public bath. Apparently, I was the only guest staying tonight, so I had it all to myself. The hot spring lived up to its advertised benefits, washing away my daily fatigue and infusing my body with restorative minerals. Feeling a level of satisfaction way beyond the price of the stay, I ended the day. The next morning, I woke up early to do my daily jogging and stepped outside. That's when I saw Madison and a few employees conversing at the entrance. Spotting me, Madison, with her eyes swollen red from crying, suddenly blurted out, "Please, help me." It seems the manager, who happened to be her mother, had passed the news that the hotel was closing much earlier than planned. They were shutting down in 3 months instead of 6. Madison had spent her high school years here and was determined to save the hotel from closure. She went against her mother and grandmother's wishes and had taken over as manager. By that time, the financial state of the business was in dire straits, with employees quickly resigning, leaving fewer than 10 remaining. It seems that only those who have been there since previous generations have chosen to stay at their own accord. Particularly the head chef, Brandon, was renowned for his exceptional skills. Upon hearing the name, I felt a sense of familiarity and decided to look it up. It turned out that he had a long history at a renowned restaurant and had even been featured in the media. No wonder the food yesterday was exceptionally delicious. When I left my previous job in a slump, the former manager, Madison's grandmother, took me in. She told me to do as I pleased, which brought me out of my slump. I owe her, and I'm prepared to see this hotel through to its end. As Brandon said this, the other employees nodded in agreement. They understood Madison's feelings and were doing everything they could for the hotel's survival, even at the expense of their personal lives. Madison shared her thoughts while looking at the employees. Though she's the manager, my mom is practically involved in the business, so I'm the actual manager, but without formal recognition, I'm still just a staff. I wanted to prove to my mom and the others that this hotel is still viable, but it seems my efforts aren't enough. Tears started to fall from Madison's eyes again. While looking at Madison with concern, Brandon whispered, "She hoped to utilize your knowledge from the travel agency, but then worried it might be a burden to you and started to backpedal. She is probably overwhelmed with anxiety now." Hearing this, I began to seriously consider what the right course of action might be. To be honest, I don't have any particular attachment to this hotel, and if you ask me if I was close with Madison, I wouldn't say so. We just reunited yesterday, after more than a decade. Yet, seeing her in tears, I couldn't stand by idly. "Madison, if you're okay with it, I'd like to help turn this hotel around as much as I can." Before I knew it, those were the words I found myself saying. Both Madison and the employees looked surprised. "But don't you have work?" Scratching the back of my head, I replied. I hadn't mentioned this, but I was fired the day before yesterday, so I'm currently unemployed. I have some savings, and I was just traveling for some relaxation. I've also decided to move out of my parents' house, so I'm pretty free right now. If you're okay with it, Madison, could I lend a hand? I tried to keep it light, so she wouldn't feel burdened. While everyone looked worried about my situation, only Brandon responded decisively. You must have your own share of troubles that you can't share with others. I was practically kicked out too, so I understand how you feel. Since he's offering, why don't we welcome him as part of the team?" Following Brandon's suggestion, the employees exchanged glances and then nodded firmly in agreement. However, Madison herself still seemed unconvinced. "There's no obligation for you to help out. I know it's a bit awkward to say this, but we didn't really have any connection before. Besides, to ask someone who just stayed at this hotel for the first time yesterday is..." Facing Madison's negativity, I shook my head to dismiss that line of thought. If I see someone in trouble, I extend a hand to help. My mom taught me to always remember the human heart. Even if my grades were bad or I couldn't do sports, you are in trouble right in front of me. Isn't that reason enough to lend a hand? I think it's perfectly valid. As I said this, Madison burst into tears again. "Thank you so much." And so, she kept thanking me over and over. After checking out, I returned to my parents' house and told them I had found a new job. They were surprised by the sudden career change, not knowing I had been fired. Yet, sensing my determination, they sent me off with smiles. A week later, I returned to Madison and the others. I ended up working as a live-in employee. "You were living with your parents, right? We just so happen to have a vacant room here, so feel free to live in it. Food, clothing, and shelter are all provided, so please dedicate your full effort to helping us revitalize the hotel. These are the conditions for your employment." Since I hadn't found a new place yet and Madison was okay with it, I immediately started working as an employee here. "All right, I'm in. Let's give it a try." We exchanged a firm handshake. And so, my chaotic new life began. I wasn't assigned to any specific department. Instead, Madison took it upon herself to create a mysterious division called Let's Revitalize the Hotel and decided to pay me a salary as its head. What a naming sense, I thought, but it didn't matter at that point. I became a part of the hotel's revitalization plan from here on out. The first thing I focused on was the introduction photos of the hotel posted on the website. They were old, of poor quality, and to put it simply, terrible. If it's like this, people might think the hotel isn't putting much effort into PR. You know, even TV personalities regularly update their promotional photos, right? In a way, the website is the hotel's window or entrance. Just having a well-navigated, beautiful website with updated photos can completely change the impression it gives. Madison took notes intently as I spoke. However, none of the employees here had the knowledge to update the website. Certainly, such tasks require specialized knowledge, and if it can't be handled in-house, outsourcing becomes necessary. But surprisingly, this was quickly resolved. It's fine. I used to run a blog and have some knowledge. I know a bit about HTML, so why not revamp the website while we're at it? Well, can you really do that? I hadn't paid any attention to the website at all, and no one here knows how to handle it. So can I leave it all to you? I readily agreed to it and decided to start with the PR for this hotel. Renovating the building was an option, but that was secondary. First, it was crucial to do what we could without incurring costs. So, I dedicated myself to refurbishing the website, even at the expense of sleep. Once the foundation was laid, I realized something. Yes, the unsatisfying feeling towards the night view I had felt that day. While updating the photos for the website and revisiting the rooms, I noticed that the branches of a tree outside the hotel were obstructing the otherwise beautiful night view. Discussing this with the other employees, we found someone who could prune the trees for us. After resolving the night view issue, the next challenge was the photos of the food. Despite having delicious cuisine, amateur photos would weaken the promotional effect. Nowadays, professional photographers work freelance and can be matched with apps. I immediately used one such app and hired a photographer. This photographer had experience shooting for numerous famous restaurants' websites. With their skills, we had Brandon's proud full course beautifully photographed for the website. Just by doing that, we managed to completely transform the old website, making it reminiscent of a popular hotel. However, this was just the first step in the hotel's turnaround plan. A beautiful entrance means little if the inside is a mess and there won't be a next time. In this era, reviews significantly impact business management. After much thought, I instructed to convert some rooms, all of the same grade, into special editions. In other popular hotels, there are rooms available for exclusive reservation by only one party per day. When you look it up, you'll find that weekends and holidays are booked solid for more than 3 months in advance. Since we have an incredibly good jacuzzi, how about creating an exclusive open-air bath with a flowing jacuzzi for just that room? Madison immediately set this plan into motion. It appears that the jacuzzi here has 2 types of benefits: the fatigue recovery effect I experienced, and also a skin-enhancing effect. I thought that advertising these extensively would attract female guests as well. And there might be a need for barrier-free accommodations for those using wheelchairs. We decided to postpone these considerations for the moment and proceed with the feasible renovations. Thus, the hotel revitalization plan that began with the overhaul of the website started to show results as it passed the 6-month mark. It's incredible. Just adding a review bonus has led to so many posts. Seeing this, inquiries about the exclusive rooms have increased. And though it's busy, it's really exciting. Madison was in a particularly good mood. For me, it was just imitating methods used elsewhere, but for someone without experience in planning, it might not be something easily thought of. As more time passed, a year had gone by since the hotel revitalization plan was put into action. We started seeing daily visitors, and the exclusive rooms began to be booked a month in advance. It wasn't that the number of guests suddenly increased. It was thanks to Tom, a former junior of mine, that this momentum started. "There's a lot I owe you, Bill. This is nothing." Tom happily accepted my request. I had asked him to get his sister, a parenting influencer, to promote us. We paid her a fee to stay with us and post a report on her social media. This quickly garnered attention. As soon as it was announced that the first 10 groups could stay at half price in celebration of the renovation opening, inquiries started pouring in. From there, everything progressed smoothly to the present. It might have been a stroke of luck that things went so well, but it was also due to Madison's effort and firm decisions. When the budget was presented, the other employees were skeptical, suggesting there might be lower-cost alternatives. While that might be true, offering quality requires investment. As I pondered how to persuade them, Madison looked me straight in the eye and said, "Let's trust his words, it'll be fine. Bill will surely pull it off. If we don't trust him, then whom should we trust?" I still remember being moved by her words, as they were the exact opposite of what I was always told by Tyler back at the company. He would always say, "Who would believe what you say? If you can do it, even a middle schooler can. Don't get ahead of yourself." Being constantly negated like that, I gradually stopped expressing my ideas, but Madison's positive words changed me. It started off as a situation put in front of me that I just couldn't ignore, but now I had a different reason. I never wanted to see Madison's tears again. That was all. Though I barely knew her initially, working together made me realize something. Madison is very beautiful when she smiles. It's more accurate to say she's beautiful than cute. In this sort of business, visuals are very important. The smile Madison gave me upon our reunion that day was painfully awkward. Forced, with her cheeks taut in an unnatural smile. If the top figure of the hotel has such an expression, it would surely make the guests feel uneasy. But with Madison now, such concerns are unnecessary. Day by day, she prioritizes customer-first actions and initiates before being asked. Madison's earnest efforts bore fruit, and most of the recent reviews praises the young manager, Madison. So, it's no exaggeration to say that this great success wouldn't have been possible without Madison. Many efforts have come together to shape the current results. Then, 3 years after I started working here, Madison's mother, who had never shown her face before, visited. After walking around the hotel and inspecting the interior from corner to corner, she let out a small sigh. I wondered if something had displeased her, but Madison's mother said something unexpected. "I never imagined things would turn out this way, Madison. I was certain you would abandon this place, but I was wrong. It's shining just like when the hotel first opened, filled with the warmth of our guests' happiness. You're a commendable general manager, Madison." Madison's mother was an intelligent woman, but she often seemed somewhat cold. However, her words carried warmth, and her expression as she stroked her daughter's head was incredibly gentle. It was also the moment when Madison finally achieved her ultimate goal of being recognized as a capable general manager. Some time later, Madison invited me to have a meal together on a holiday. "There's something I've been wanting to tell you. Actually, I've liked you since middle school. You probably don't remember, but you stood up for me when I forgot something and Mr. Johnson scolded me, right? That meant so much to me." Come to think of it, I do recall such an incident. Madison had forgotten her homework, and when she told Mr. Johnson, he became furious and began yelling at her. She was on the verge of tears, being accused of lying about doing her homework but leaving it at home, when I intervened. "Mr. Johnson, if Madison says she did it, you should believe her. Why are you yelling at her like that? Would you have yelled at me like this if I had said I forgot mine? I don't think so." I guess I was quite the troublemaker back then. Mr. Johnson had reprimanded me before, but he had never yelled at me like that. I pointed this out, thinking he chose who to yell at based on who they were. Madison began to see me differently from that moment and harbored unrequited feelings for me for 3 years. In the end, I couldn't say it because my parents got divorced and we moved. I hardly had any friends, so I was hesitant about attending reunions. I really wanted to meet you and express my feelings, but I just couldn't muster the courage. Madison said this with her cheeks flushed. While I was pleased by her innocent reaction, I felt compelled to address a lingering question. "But that's all in the past, right?" When I said this, Madison slowly nodded. Perhaps she shared this story to put an end to her feelings, allowing her to move forward. "After working together for 3 years, I understand how you feel, Madison. I'm touched by your feelings. Well, from now on, let's continue as good friends." My voice might have quivered as I said this, but I managed to hide it. As Madison confessed her feelings, it was also time for me to put an end to mine. Although I felt a profound sense of loss, I was genuinely happy to have found a friend with whom I could share my true feelings at this stage in my life. A few days later, "About the plan for this hotel, I'd like for you to let us handle it as well." Someone from a travel agency came by. It was Tyler. It seems he had requested a transfer from his previous department and had restarted as a regular employee in a department mainly dealing with procurement and arrangements. After you left, ironically, I was made aware of how valuable it is to have someone who can confront you with their opinions directly. If you want to laugh, go ahead. I was just an arrogant manager who put you and others in difficult positions. However, I didn't laugh off or deny his words. I still can forgive you, but that's separate from work. Do you understand why I accepted this proposal? Because of the profits. Of course, that's part of it, but the main reason is that I noticed your change. Tyler, you originally wanted to work in this area, right? From our email exchanges, it was clear you knew our hotel in great detail, even if it meant becoming a junior employee. And even knowing there were subordinates you had run before, you reached out, wanting to be involved. I accepted because I believe the person you were back then is no longer here. Hearing this, Tyler's shoulders trembled. He bit his lip hard, trying to hold back something welling up in his eyes. Watching from behind, Tom stepped forward and said, "I always thought Tyler wasn't suited for that department. Can you believe he called my proposal rubbish and threw it away? But after you left and Tyler transferred, another senior took my idea, succeeded, and got promoted. You see, Tyler had no eye for good ideas. This must be his true feelings." Though perhaps it wasn't necessary to say, it seemed Tom held a grudge on Tyler, who had constantly picked on him. Yet, it wasn't out of malice but more like reminiscing about a past memory with a laugh. Tyler, sensing this, laughed out loud. It was the first time I had seen him smile. "Yeah, you're right. I was no good at planning, but I do have a knack for this kind of work. After all, I was the one who spotted this hotel." "Indeed. Well then, Bill, I'll go make some coffee, so please take it from here." With that, Tom hurried off. "He's changed, hasn't he?" "Yes, he's been doing quite well since joining here. Maybe it's the power of love." "Huh, what's that supposed to mean?" Throughout the business discussion, there was an unexpectedly peaceful atmosphere that would have been unimaginable before. Shortly thereafter, it became passable to book our hotel through the travel agency I used to work for. This led to an even greater increase in visitors, and despite significantly expanding our staff, we were still incredibly busy. We received particularly high praise for our cuisine. It's the greatest joy for a chef to hear people say our food is delicious, from young children to the elderly, including those with allergies. Brandon has taken in many apprentices and is now creating American and Italian dishes, as well as kids' meals. Recently, he's even started experimenting with baby food. The hotel's top priority is providing a comfortable space for everyone, regardless of who they are. Finally, the dream of having a large venue for wedding receptions in a separate building has been realized. This was apparently Madison's long-cherished wish. There's a church nearby, and couples who have had their wedding ceremonies there have mentioned how great it would be to have their receptions at this hotel. So, we planned once again, and the construction was completed without a hitch. Now, the very first couple appeared in the banquet hall. "Wow, wedding dresses are quite heavy." "Really, that's your first comment?" I couldn't help but interject, which sparked laughter all around. "Hey, don't mess with my wife. Even if it's you, I won't allow it." That was Tom, making his entrance. To my surprise, he got married before me. After joining us here, he and his partner hit it off and, following a serious relationship, they decided to tie the knot. To both of you, may you be happy forever. Madison, I liked you too. As the festive reception began, my murmured words were drowned out by the surrounding congratulatory messages. Perhaps it's time for me to start looking forward as well. Watching the happy couple, I felt a warm sensation spreading through my heart.